The Seattle Seahawks have finally found some offensive line help in the way of Gabe Jackson from the Las Vegas Raiders. A trade sent Gabe Jackson from the Raiders to the Seahawks to hopefully protect for Russell Wilson, and it does appear that Russell Wilson will be back as the Seahawks quarterback, although we never really know right now. But Gabe Jackson, that's going to make Russell Wilson happy. He's a well-known name. He's a solid NFL guard, and he's probably already the second best offensive lineman on this football team the day he steps into the door. So this trade was a 2021 fifth-round pick to the Raiders for Gabe Jackson. Now, Gabe Jackson does cost a little pretty penny, but he is a good player, specifically as more of a pass blocker, I would say, than a run blocker, but he's fairly well-rounded, and I think that's why Seattle was attracted to him, because Seattle loves to maintain a nice balance offensively. They like to run that football. They like to run that rock. Gabe Jackson has some good size. He has good feet overall, pulling linemen. A lot of that, what he did with Gruden, I think is going to be transferable to what they do in Seattle, having fairly similar offensive schemes. So I think Gabe Jackson overall is just going to be a presence for Russell Wilson, protect the interior. I think it's very important. When you looked at Seattle last season and when you looked at Seattle this offseason and what they needed to do, I think a lot of what they needed to do was prepare to stop Aaron Donald, prepare to stop J.J. Watt, and prepare to stop Eric Armstead, and just overall the defensive lines across the board of the NFC West, and especially the interior. So big reason they lost to the Rams is because they couldn't block in the interior, and Russell Wilson was being collapsed on within the pocket, and Gabe Jackson's at least going to solidify that, stabilize that, and keep Russell Wilson protected a little bit better in that interior. I think it's finally nice to see that Seattle has been willing to, give out a little bit of money, give out a little bit of resources to fix this offensive line. And I do like that they're now going the route of more well-known assets and more, well-known pros at the offensive line, because what they've been doing for the last couple of years, and maybe more than a couple, has been they've tried to gamble on the draft on the offensive line and spent some picks and some capital on the offensive line, and none of these players have panned out. So it's been bust and bust and bust on the offensive line for Seattle. It's not really like they've addressed it. They've tried to address it, but it hasn't really worked out in their favor. So I like that instead of, drafting an offensive lineman in the later rounds, they just send a fifth for a guy that they know is pretty good. Not an elite guard, but like a solid guard and maybe a little bit above average. So that's great. And I think that is a step forward for the Seahawks. Now, they also made another move, taking Gerald Everett from their rival Rams and making him their new starting tight end. Gerald Everett got a deal up to $7 million with $6 of it guaranteed. Gerald Everett is never a player that stood out to me personally. I have never been a guy that said, wow, Gerald Everett should go somewhere and be the starting tight end and be alone and get away from Tyler Higbee. I've always been more of a Tyler Higbee guy myself. But I will say, is Gerald Everett an upgrade over what Seattle had at tight end? Yeah, probably. He also replaces Greg Olsen too, so that's also a positive. But I think what Everett actually brings to Seattle is a guy that is athletic. He's very athletic. And I think what we've seen from Seattle is Seattle has been surrounding Russell Wilson with playmakers that are athletic and have speed, right? Have athleticism. And DK Metcalf being one of them, Tyler Lockett being another, Gerald Everett adding to that list of players and those receivers. And do I think Gerald Everett's going to be a top 10 tight end? No. Do I think him potentially being added to Seattle and getting more targets in Seattle as opposed to the Rams will help his stats and, probably make him more well-known? Yeah, he probably will be, and he'll probably will produce his best season ever this year. But I just wouldn't expect like an upper echelon tight end. I see Gerald Everett as he's probably a starting tight end in this league, but I would probably look at it as like he's going to be a bottom 10 starter. Maybe with more upside to do something, but nothing crazy. But what really stands out to me with him is just his athleticism. He has good size, good speed, good receiving skills that have never truly been utilized correctly. So maybe Seattle can put him in a better situation to succeed. So those are the two moves that they have done offensively in Seattle to help Russell Wilson in 2021. Seahawks fans, let me know if you think this is the right approach by Seahawks and the Seahawks Seattle and Seattle Pete Carroll, all of them. Do you think this is the right approach, or do you think they should have spent more dollars, more assets, more money on fixing the defense? Let me know in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of Gabe Jackson and Gerald Everett in Seattle.